Welcome to Map Your Mind. Travel through the world with your brain. Today, we journey to a land where volcanoes rise like ancient gods, where revolution once roared through misty valleys, where the people, resilient as the ceiba tree, continue to rewrite their future with every sunrise. This is El Salvador. Before borders, there were volcanoes and warriors, long before the maps named it. El Salvador, the savior, this land pulsed with life and fire. Ancient civilizations thrived in the shadows of towering volcanoes and beside fertile rivers. The Pipil people, descendants of the Aztecs, built cities, cultivated maize, and worshipped gods of sun and rain. They named their kingdom Cuscatlan, the land of precious things. And it truly was. A jewel of the Mesoamerican world, with artistry, trade, and fierce warriors who guarded their home with passion. But in the early 1500s, change came on Spanish ships. Led by Pedro de Alvarado, conquistadors marched with steel, horses, and the cross. The Pipil resisted, especially under legendary chiefs like Alaco. But the tide of empire was too great. By the mid-16th century, El Salvador had become part of the vast Spanish colony of New Spain. The people, land, and labor were all transformed to serve the crown. And yet, under the weight of colonialism, the soul of the land never broke. From chains to independence, centuries passed under Spanish rule. Indigenous communities struggled to keep their traditions alive. Mestizo culture born of indigenous and European roots began to shape a new identity. In 1821, Central America threw off Spanish chains. El Salvador became part of the short-lived Federal Republic of Central America, seeking unity and strength. But by 1841, that dream collapsed, and El Salvador stood alone, independent, but not yet free from turmoil. The 19th century was an age of coffee and conflict. El Salvador's rich soil became gold for plantation elites. Coffee barons ruled with unchecked power while indigenous people and peasants were pushed to the margins. Inequality grew, resentment simmered, and then came 1932, a massacre remembered. That year, a peasant uprising erupted in western El Salvador led by laborers, farmers, and indigenous voices. The government responded with brutal force. An estimated 30,000 people were slaughtered in a matter of days. This event, known as La Matanza, haunts the nation's memory still. It was more than a massacre, it was an erasure of indigenous identity. The silence that followed lasted decades. But beneath it, the seeds of rebellion grew. The long civil war. By the 1970s, El Salvador was a pressure cooker of injustice, fear, and resistance. The rich grew richer. The poor were silenced. Death squads patrolled the night. But the people did not stay quiet. Guerrilla movements rose, calling for land reform and justice. The country descended into a brutal civil war that lasted from 1980 to 1992. The cost was devastating. Over 75,000 lives lost. Thousands disappeared. Entire communities torn apart. One voice echoed louder than most: Archbishop Car Romero. A champion of the poor and a voice of peace, he was assassinated in 1980 while saying Mass. His martyrdom became a symbol of hope and courage. In 1992, peace was signed. The guns fell silent. But the healing, long, painful, and unfinished had only just begun. A new chapter. Today, El Salvador is writing a new story. It's a tale of resilience, of diaspora, of innovation rising from ashes. The country made global headlines in recent years for adopting Bitcoin as a legal currency, an unprecedented experiment. It's also known for confronting its legacy of violence and crime with controversial policies and strongman politics. Yet behind the politics, behind the noise, is something more powerful: the Salvadoran spirit. The people, hardworking, joyful, rooted in tradition, yet dreaming of more. In San Salvador's bustling markets, in the surf towns of El Tunco, in pupas areas and poetry, the pulse of life never stops. Fun fact, El Salvador is the smallest country in Central America, but it's known as the land of volcanoes. It has more than 20 volcanoes, and some are still very much alive. So, when you hear El Salvador, don't just think size. Think depth. Think fire. Think of people who've survived conquest, massacre, war, and still rise, dancing with memory and defiance. This is El Salvador. Stick around, there's a whole world to uncover, right here on Map Your Mind. Where to next?